Check 1 2, check 1 2, final checks before we go live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tegan Randolph, your host for all things college football. This is the Stadium Pulse. It is a lovely Tuesday. Could we classify it as afternoon? It is 12:04 where I'm currently at. So I would say, yeah, we are in the noonish afternoon stages, but welcome. You know, traditionally on the Tuesday show, we try to hit the 5:30. You're coming home from school, maybe you're coming home from your work and you need something to watch while you're sitting in traffic, and I want the Stadium Pulse to kind of be that go-to. But I am also one that has a work and a life that sometimes can come in the way. And unfortunately, we have to do a little bit of a lunch break. So I apologize if this is out of the norm. Maybe you missed the live show, and I hope you could take the time out of your day to go check out the show after it's been recorded. But if you're someone that is new here, I appreciate you giving this show an opportunity. This is just college football, pure at its best form. 365 days, 52 weeks out of the year, nonstop college football. Just because it's the offseason doesn't mean you have to go dormant, doesn't mean you don't have to know ball. This is the place you want to be at if you want to be the smart one in your friend group who knows a lot of college football, even before the season eventually starts. What we have on the docket for you today is three main topics. We're going to be talking about Notre Dame and some of the changes with the 12-team playoff that have now benefited Notre Dame and what could be seen as special treatment. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll also be kind of fixing the college football playoff in our own right, looking at the college football playoff. What are some of the pros, the cons? By no means is this going to fix college football, because I think there's a lot of other problems that could be baked into the pie of what's wrong with the sport currently. I would still classify it as the best sport in the world, but there's a couple of key fixes that I think could just continue to excel the path forward. And lastly, I think a fun series to finish the show is almost like a get to know your transfer. There were so many transfer quarterbacks this past offseason that really went for so many different places that I think it would be fun to really break down. I did an entire film breakdown of Darian Mensah to keep it short. So we'll be breaking down Darian Mensah and kind of getting to know what kind of quarterback did Miami get late into the cycle. But nonetheless, I think we're going to need some Aquaphor. We're going to need some Aquaphor for this show. We try to keep the show about 30 minutes. I'm going to be aiming for 30 minutes here. So we're going to try to hit that. Usually it gets bumped to 45. So we'll try to keep this as short and concise as possible to respect both your time and mine. Notre Dame got special treatment. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's not try to dance around the conversation. If you did not hear, the 12-team playoff is here to stay at least for the upcoming season. The hidden secret that not a lot of people are talking about is the fact that we really don't know what the formats are almost going into every single season for the most of the 2020s, and there's a lot of push for potentially a 24-team playoff, maybe an 18-team playoff. But for 2026 to 2027, we know exactly what we have moving forward, and it's still the 12-team playoff, even though we've only seen 2 iterations of it and we're still trying to fix it. That's not what we're here to talk about, because that's not major news. And honestly, this overall isn't anything groundbreaking, but there's a couple of key differences into what they've changed for the upcoming season. The first one is we are avoiding what we saw this past season, where we had 2 group of 5 teams make it over an 8-5 ACC champion in Duke. So now as we move forward, It is the top 5 champions, but you have 4 Power 4 conferences guaranteeing a spot. So you're not going to get pushed out if you're a Duke team. You would have made it if we had these same rules set last season. And now we're going to have just the one group of 5 team, which I understand. I get it. It makes complete sense. I'm in the camp that I believe that the group of 5 should have their own playoff. And I think that it was disappointing to have basically 2 of the first round playoff games be non-competitive games. You knew it going into it. And I'm not saying this will fix it, but I think more times than not, if we had a 10-year period of these specific rules, you're not going to have many 8-5 Duke teams winning their respective conference. And I think it's completely fair to say if that team had made it in the last playoff, we probably would have seen similar results. It might have been more of a competitive game, but I'm not going to sit here in the hypothetical sphere. The real news story, the real plot line that has changed is Notre Dame. From this point moving forward, and to be fair, it's a very loose term of moving forward. If they are ranked in the final top 12, not before conference championship or not after conference championship weekend, the final rankings going into conference championship weekend, if they are ranked in the top 12, that locks them in. Really let yourself sit and digest that statement. Not an independent school, not like a UConn or anybody else. It is specifically Notre Dame that if they are in the final top 12 going into conference championship weekend, they are making the college football playoff. No ands, ifs, or buts. That is wild to think about. Truly, when we think of Notre Dame going into 2026, and I have their schedule pulled up for a reason, this is a school that not only bickered and went back and forth with USC, one of the best rivalries in all of college football, and got USC to basically wave the white flag damn near and say, we just can't do this anymore. We cannot have you on the schedule anymore for the foreseeable future. This is what we're seeing with Notre Dame's schedule. Because now, as we enter conference championship weekend, you are going to be seeing a scenario where you have the Power 4, all 4 are going to have locked up spots. Then the group of 5 champ, we're at 5 automatic bids. And frankly, more times than not, even if we say, let's play the hypothetical game in 2026, Notre Dame loses to Miami, who is a projected top 3 team in the country. To be fair, Notre Dame is in the same spot. They're going to be 11-1. SMU might be a difficult game. Well, you got that at home. Same could be said for the Miami game. Maybe going to Provo and facing off against BYU. That's a difficult game. Maybe you drop that one. Maybe you even drop Miami. A 10-2 Notre Dame team could very well find themselves still in the top 12, like we saw this past year. And if the same scenario was played out where going into conference championship weekend, they were in the top 12, well, there we go. We got already 6 automatic bids, 6 of them. And now we're going to have 6 at-large teams. This is wild to think about. Truly, when we think of Notre Dame getting this automatic qualifier, it's not in a sense of surprise, because I'm not surprised by this. I don't think anybody that follows college football should be surprised that Notre Dame is getting this quote unquote special treatment as a team that has pushed and, screamed and cried that they will never join a conference, and to come to not the saving grace or I guess not to come to the defense of Notre Dame, but if we're looking at the perspective and putting ourselves in their shoes, not a lot of us would join a conference if you knew how much money they were making from their own TV deals and being an independent. And when you have that gold helmet and you have the brand and the notoriety that Notre Dame has, what's the incentive of joining a conference, especially after this? Truly, they are going to be a team that, even though if we were to go look at the schedule again and say they could lose a game, like, for example, we'll pull it back up. If they lost a game to Michigan State, maybe it's a wild Purdue, the spoiler makers come back out and they lose one of those games, but they beat a BYU team, then they lose to Miami, but they run the rest of the table. And it's not out of the realm of possibility. This is the same program with Marcus Freeman that lost to Marshall. They lost to Northern Illinois at home. So these crazy upsets aren't out of the realm of possibility with this program, specifically with this tenure and this coaching staff, but it won't matter. I really don't believe if we are being consistent and truly believed that when you have a light schedule like this, that you should be punished more, that you are going to be punished for losing to the bad teams. Notre Dame is just not going to be the case. They don't have to worry about going to conference championship weekend and being punished for being an independent. This is enabling them. This is them getting the special treatment. And this is coming from a Texas A&M fan that watched them get special treatment in 2020. This is the main reason why I'm not surprised by it. I'm not saying that this should be a sense or a case where we're looking at Notre Dame and saying, yeah, we're not surprised by it, so we should just sweep this under the rug. We really shouldn't worry about it. I think this is bad for the sport. Truthfully, I think this is bad for the sport. And it's I think a catch-22 situation where one side has no incentive to join a conference, and then you enable them to not join a conference. Whereas logic would tell you, I think it would be better for the sport if they join the ACC, a conference that is desperate for any kind of life. I think they would be better off in the Big Ten, and we would avoid this. And I just think we continue to dig and dig. And basically, I think that if I were to give an analogy to this, it's like a little kid that continues to, act a fool at the table, whine and cry, maybe sit on their phone the whole time. They're ignoring the parents. And instead of taking away the phone or the iPad or grounding them, you basically hand them an ice cream sundae and say, you're good. You're fine. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter how it impacts the rest of the people in the restaurant. As long as the kid is happy and is, not completely violent or causing actual inflicting pain to other people. I don't care what he does. It doesn't matter if he's screaming, annoying the rest of the college football space. It's fine because it's Notre Dame. It's the golden child for all intents and purposes. I really just, I think we're going to find ourselves continuing to drift closer and closer as a sport. I'm not talking from the perspective of a Texas A&M fan. I'm not talking from an anti-Notre Dame fan, although they are public enemy number one to most college football fans. I feel like we continue to drift to a point where it's like, and I know one of my good friends, CFB Chuck, talked about it. He said, are we going to get to a point with the college football playoff that we are sitting here and going, if you're a fan of a big school, yeah, I really don't have to care about this until we get to the playoffs. Because I know that we can lose 2, and if we continue to expand maybe 3, 4 games, it won't really matter, and the regular season continues to be devalued. That's what I'm a little bit worried about, to be honest, and I fear that we are going to continue to drift towards that path if we keep, I guess, I don't know really how else to say. I don't want to say participation trophies, but loosening the terms and listening to the whiny crowd that continues to groan every single time they're on the outside looking in. Notre Dame should not have made the playoffs this past season. They should have been ranked in front of Miami for a long time. That's on the playoff committee's fault. But because of that title and that the cover of the book is saying Miami made the college football playoff after not being ranked in front of Notre Dame for weeks, for every iteration of the college football playoff until the conference championship weekend. That title, that cover, is what's going to be sold. But the content and the context of the book and everything that would be baked into it would actually tell you that's the playoff committee's fault, not the fault that Notre Dame basically got gaslit and sold a charade that they were an automatic lock of the playoffs, and now they get ripped away from them. The enemy really, yes, is also Notre Dame, but the enemy really could go down to the college football playoff. Imagine the special treatment of a top 12 team making the 12-team playoff. But they weren't. I mean, they were a top 12 team. I see your point. I do see your point that they were a top 12 team. Part of the problem was the automatic qualifiers and the auto bids. I'm also in the camp that you have to make conferences matter. It is a 12-team playoff by the rule set that is set, or the rules that are put in place. And for people who aren't seeing what I'm talking about, I understand where we're coming from, where you want to get the 12 best teams. And if you just wanted to get rid of automatic qualifiers, I'm not against that. But nonetheless, I still stand on the fact that if you're going to live in this world where we have to give the conference championship meaning, if you're anti-conference championship game and you want to get rid of it and just run it like that, I'm fine with that. I'm in the camp that I want conference championship weekend to matter. And I'm talking about this mainly for the fact that that's not the world we live in, where it's just take the 12 teams, put them in the playoff, and we're all good. That's just not how it works. It's just not going to be how it works. Conference championship weekend makes too much money. And if you're going to make the conferences matter, you're going to have teams that are probably not within that top 12 have an opportunity to make the playoff, and that's going to continue to bump teams down. And that goes back to the point what we were talking about, where Notre Dame has virtually no incentive to make a move to a conference. They really didn't before. You've basically kind of kicked them out of the house and said, hey, go enjoy your mansion down the street, because we're done with the teetering. We're done with the will they, won't they. And they never was. They never were going to call a spade a spade. That was never going to happen. And I could sit here and vent about it for another 20 minutes if I wanted to, but we're not going to do that. It's like I have other things to talk about other than complaining about Notre Dame, which I would love to do. They are enemy number one in college football as it currently stands. But like I said, better things to do. Let's fix the college football playoff. Why don't we? I think I could fix the college football playoff in 7 steps. We have 7 steps to fix the college football playoff. This is how I would fix the college football playoff, to keep it simple. No more expansion. We are done expanding. I cannot emphasize that enough. 24 teams is egregious. It would ruin the regular season. That's not a over-exaggeration. That is not me just trying to repeat what everyone has been saying since when we went from 4 to 12. I promise you, that is the final nail in the coffin. And frankly, I think anything past 12, even if we go to 16, if we go to 18, it's always going to be the next number if we continue to expand. You have to put your foot down and say enough is enough, because you continue to wear down the value of the regular season. If you're a team like Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, you look at the regular season and you say, yeah, we could lose this game, adds up to 3. We'll still make it into the college football playoff, all fine and dandy. And I think Texas is a good example. They could lose maybe to Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and then a game against like Georgia or Alabama. They'll make the college football playoff just fine. That's not the world I want this sport to live in. So expansion, and we're staying at 12, is rule number 1. And I'm trying to keep this semi-realistic for the sake of, in my perfect world, we're looking at, I don't know, maybe a 4-team playoff. I would be fine with the BCS era coming back, to be truthful with you, but that's for another day. That's a completely different topic that would probably take another 8 minutes to talk about. I think the second step that we have to do is the 2 rounds of home playoff games. You see the red line on the graphic to my right. The red line is there for obvious reasons. As soon as you get to the semifinals and the national championship, we're on neutral sites. You could do the Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl. You know the whole ordeal. As it currently stands, once you get to the conference championship level and the quarterfinals, you're then going to these neutral site games. And I think if we're trying to value getting a bye game, because what we're seeing in the past 2 iterations of the 12-team playoff is the bye week is really not as valuable as it's being showcased, as it's being shown. And so I think if you allow a team to be sitting at home and really get to play at home and enjoy the the home environment advantage, which is so true in college football. It's the core of college football is the passion, and you are going to continue to incentivize having those home playoff games. The third thing goes to the 6 auto bids that I would actually keep. The first thing we have to understand, if we are going to have an honest conversation about the state of college football, yes, there is the Power Four. You have the best Big Ten teams, the SEC, ACC, Big 12. They are not on a level playing field. You just had an 8-5 ACC program win the conference. The Big 12 got their champion in and got smacked around by an Oregon team that didn't win or didn't even attend the Big Ten championship. There is a gap between the Big Ten and the SEC compared to the Big 12 in the ACC. Can we acknowledge that? Can we be honest for a second? Okay, fair. So I think you have the top 2 teams in the SEC and the Big Ten play for conference championship weekend. The value of that conference championship is an automatic bid to go to the quarterfinals to have a home playoff game in the next round. You then get your bye week, but you also get the home playoff advantage, which I think would incentivize those games to still be valuable. You are guaranteed to get at least one ACC or Big 12 team in, those being the winners of the conference championship. They as well get an automatic bye. You could run into a case where an 8-5 Duke team is technically the number 4 seed, but it is what it is. I understand that that could be something that what we saw with Boise State jumping up. I don't have the group of 5 in here. I'm expecting these conferences to be good. I'm expecting these conferences to be solidified and better than what we have been seeing from the ACC. I'm not trying to bash the ACC the whole time, but they're easily the weakest link out of the 4 conferences right now. But that doesn't guarantee the runner-up of the ACC is getting in. That doesn't guarantee a BYU. If they're good enough, they'll make an automatic bid or they'll make a at-large spot. But I do think if you make it to the SEC championship, if you do make it to the Big Ten championship, you get the automatic bid. More times than not, you'll probably still make it at an at-large spot, but I want to incentivize making it to that conference championship. I think we've talked about the 4th step a little bit with number 3. The conference title winner gets the bye week. I mainly did that just to have it organized to incentivize conference championship weekend. I'm fine with it being a play-in across the board, but I think if we're de-incentivizing the SEC and the Big Ten runner-ups, the better conferences, I think they should get the incentive to want to be in those conference championship games. 5th step would be the group of 5 playoff. I've said it for weeks, months, maybe even years at this point. I think the group of 5 should have their own playoff. It's not to disrespect the play style and the talent that's in there. I just think we would find more entertaining and competitive games across the board. There's videos on this page. If you want to see real deep dive breakdowns on why I think the group of 5 would be better for the sport, you could go find it. I'm just saying this would be a part of the overall plan for fixing the college football playoff. Now, we've talked about the rankings. It'd be 1 through 4 of ranking the conference champions and then the at-large spots. By the way, there's no Notre Dame automatic bid in here. I think this is such a key fix that I think could be implemented even to like a realistic college football playoff. Reseeding. I think reseeding would do such wonders within the college football playoff. I truly believe it. You see it in the NFL. It would incentivize trying to be the number 1, the number 2, the number 3 seed versus being the 4 seed in the college football playoff and then getting run in with the 5 seed who was the outside looking in, who just faced off against the 12 seed group of 5 team. And it seems like the 5 seed is the best thing since sliced bread because you also don't have to deal with a bye and you get a warm up or a tune up game at home. And then you have to go face in a neutral site like we just saw with Oregon. I think if you reseed them, it really incentivizes wanting to be a higher seed, especially if you're a conference champion. And I think as we get closer to the championship, you will start to define the real elite teams as you get more balanced matchups. And the last thing, it's a little bit of an asterisk because I don't think this is a needle like a guaranteed thing. I don't think it has to be like this, but I will stand on my take. Rose Bowl should be in the national championship. I think the Rose Bowl is the perfect venue for college football. I think it is the epitome of college football. I understand it is such a money grab, and there's so many other stadiums and venues that should get the opportunity to host the national championship, which, by the way, in this perfect scenario, we're having the national championship on a Saturday. Our sport, our Saturday, makes sense. But as well, I think if you're going to go down that path, it should be in the Rose Bowl. I think this is the perfect way of doing the college football playoff in a realistic sense. I could easily do a path where we're talking about the college football playoff in an unrealistic point of view where I'm doing everything that I would do. And if you want to see that, there's a comment section for a reason. So let me know if you want to see that. But this is the perfect college football playoff format, in my opinion. Oh my gosh. We're almost at 30 minutes. We still got to talk about Darian Mensah. Let's get through this show. By the way, we have some people in here, and Joshua being one as well, who commented. I appreciate you giving the show an opportunity. That the back and forth is my favorite part of doing content overall. I've never been in a space where I've been able to just talk ball with a ton of people. Kind of been in this little echo chamber we call a brain. And so this is my favorite part of doing the show, is talking with you guys and posting the videos. So shout out to you guys for anybody who interacts with the show. And I also have to give a special thanks to Crutchman Media, who has helped powered all of this up. It really does mean a lot. Let's get to know your quarterback. Darian Mensah, transfer quarterback from Duke University, going to the Miami Hurricanes. Now, I am mainly talking about Darian Mensah for a couple different reasons. A, I think Miami's going to be a very good team. Shocker, hot take, everyone. Miami's going to be a damn good team, returning with Malachi Toney, returning with Mark Fletcher. But the quarterback position was one where a lot of people were questioning what were they going to do, because they continuously do this trend of we are going to go through whatever our off-season shenanigans are. We're going to go reload the trenches. But then all of a sudden we get to the end, transfer portal is closing up, which transfer portal technically never closes up. And you sit there and you look to your left and your right and you say, what are we going to do at the most important position of all football? Well, we pulled a rabbit out of our ass and said, okay, we're going to get Cam Ward, future number 1 pick. All right, that's pretty sick. You know, he originally was going to go to the NFL draft. No, he's going to come to Miami. Same thing happened with Carson Beck. Carson Beck goes to the NFL draft, realizes I'm probably going to be a 4th round, 5th round pick. I'm going to go play Miami. Different case with Darian Mensah, where we're looking at Mensah as a guy that was a signed, sealed, delivered, full done with Duke, made the announcement and everything. And then here comes Miami, says, here, we're going to slide this note and we're going to say $4.5 million. Take it or leave it. And like any of us would, he took it. That's the story that a lot of people know about Darian Mensah. I'm here to tell you what the truth is in terms of the play style and what kind of player that Miami is getting. Because I've watched every single snap that he had at Duke. I watched a little bit of his Tulane snaps. And one of the biggest takeaways I have with him is, A, you're seeing development. This is a 3rd-year quarterback. Yeah, it's 3 schools in 3 years, a little bit of a red flag. But this is a quarterback in each stop that is learning something new and getting a little bit better. And now he's entering the best situation of his career with the best offensive coordinator of his career as well. And I think that is going to do wonders for him if we're talking about the NFL draft. But as we enter this season, you are getting a guy that is going to be very careful with the football. 34-6 INT to touchdown ratio, or TD to INT ratio. Very much a guy that's not going to put the ball in harm's way. This wasn't just 6 picks and there was a bunch of turnover-worthy plays that didn't convert into interceptions. So this is a player that is going to be very careful with the football and is going to play within the confines of the system. if you put on the Duke tape or if you've been able to watch Duke football, they were doing a lot of things to really cater to his skill sets that I'm very curious what Shannon Dawson's going to do, because it's going to be a give and take, very similar to like Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, where, Caleb wasn't really good within the structure, and you saw the great moments with him outside of it, whereas Ben Johnson, he really wants you under center. He wants it to be on the time. Like, basically, he wants you to be a robot at quarterback, which you could see with Jared Goff, but Caleb's not really like that. Mensa very much is someone that wants to get in the motion. He wants to go run a lot of dash plays, which is a lot of times whenever you get the snap of the football and you dash to the right, you dash to the left. Since he's a right-handed quarterback, more times it's going to the right and get him off platform, which you hear a lot of commentators talk about. I think you're going to see that with Duke, but I think what you're going to need to see development with Mensa is playing within rhythm, playing on time. A lot of times when it is just, we need a clean pocket, we need Mensa to throw right here on this spot every single time, it wasn't the most consistent part of his game. But then in the same breath and in the same drive, you could watch another snap where he drops back, throws it on a bucket in a ditch, right on a fade route to Cooper Bartake, who, by the way, dog. Cooper Bartake is a dog. That is the wide receiver that also went to Miami. Him and Malachi Toney, fair to say, top 4 wide receiver duo in the entire country. Not dancing around it. Cooper Bartake is really damn good. Everyone knows about Malachi Toney. People will get to know about how good Bartake is truly. I think when you look at the two situations of what the offense was with Miami before and after with the two different quarterbacks, it funny enough feels like you're going to get the blend of Beck and Cam Ward into one quarterback. I wouldn't say Mensa has the arm talent of Cam Ward, and I wouldn't say he's got the poise and the accuracy of a Carson Beck, but he's got a little bit of the athleticism to create like a Carson or like a Cam Ward, and he's also got the smart decisions and as much as people want to really bash on Carson Beck and his decision-making and the turnover-worthy plays, we saw in that college football playoff run, he was very safe with the football. I think that's a little bit closer to what we see with Mensa. At the end of the day, what you are going to get with Darian Mensa at Miami is more of a playmaker than a game manager. And that's what's so exciting. I've said it with a lot of my guys that watch film with me. I say, he does the easy things at a very difficult level. He makes the easy stuff look very hard, but the hard stuff looks very easy to him. If you could corral that down, especially within the confines of Shannon Dawson, with a more of a consistent rushing attack and what projects to probably be another very good offensive line, there's no reason for me not to say Darian Mensa couldn't find himself in New York. I don't think that's a crazy, I wouldn't say expectation, but he could be in the conversations when we get into November saying, yeah, this man could be the Heisman. Because it's not talking about Drew Aller arm strength and all these tools, but you're continuously seeing development every single year. And this is a playmaker. This is a guy that can be accurate, can make these highlight level plays. And if you continue to develop the small things, the consistency, that offense all of a sudden becomes potentially the best part of this Miami team. And we saw how good the defense was last year. I'm expecting a little bit of a regression with the defensive side of the ball, but the offensive side of the ball, I continue to really chew and look at Cooper Bartake, Malachi Toney, Mark Fletcher, and then you pair with the development of Darian Mensa. They very easily could find themselves top 5 offense in the entire country, which we really couldn't say was the case last year. And I think, once again, this is just Miami pulling a hat, not even at, or a rabbit, not even out of a hat, but basically their own ass, because this is ridiculous to get a talent of this, who is very expensive, but I think expensive for a reason. And if you're able to hit at the quarterback position, a lot of the other problems like replacing Ruben Bain, Mesidor, Keontae Scott, and all these different pieces on the defense, a better offense can help mitigate that tenfold. And I think Miami, once again, will find themselves more than likely in national championship contention and potentially even better than what we saw them last year, which, to call a spade, was still a flawed team that found a way to make it to the national championship. Well, nonetheless, everyone, 35 minutes. I appreciate anybody who's watched the show. We have a couple people in the chat. I appreciate anyone who has stayed and watched this show. I always want to give my thanks because I understand this is very much a luxury to be able to do a show like this and speak in front of a camera and take the time out I did to do this. So I appreciate every single one of you guys who's watched this. I appreciate the editors and anybody who helps out with this show. Nonetheless, we got to get going. I will see you guys next time. Peace.